Hi guys, Arthur here from Homeowner DIY. This is going to be the first of a multi-part series for a garage roof. In this first part, I'm going to go over the material, what the different material is, and then how to go about installing it. It's easier for me to do this on a bench than trying to walk around on a roof. The second part will be the actual install, and then I'm going to go into more in depth so you have an understanding of what I'm trying to articulate here in the first part. So with that in mind, what we'll do now is material and tools. All right, this is the materials list for this job. So the shingles are all Ioko. This is starter strip. This is the actual shingle itself. So this is double black. They come in all sorts of different designs and colors. And then I have a bundle of hip and ridge. We will go into what each of these parts look like in just a moment. Sealant, so Geocel 4500, staples, a box vent, underlayment, grommeted screws, 1.5 inch galvanized roofing nails. This is apron, and then this is drip edge. So this is a little bit of everything of what is going to be needed on this job. So what we'll do now is the tools list. All right, this is the tools list minus the nail gun rental compressor and hoses, because I don't own that and you're not going to need it as a DIYer for the odd roof job. But otherwise, the remainder of the tools list: 10-foot ladder in the back, a flat shovel to pry off the old shingles, my cordless kit, so sawzall, impact, we'll see if I need anything else, extension cord, skill saw, framing square, silicone gun, chalk line, hook blade, roofing knife, flat pry bar, speed square for safety equipment, safety glasses, earplugs, my pouch, so hammer, measuring tape, we'll see if I need anything else, stapler, blower, drill bit set, and a roller magnet. Guys, this is the tools list for what I have here, again minus the rental. All right, when it comes to material estimation, you need a roof chart. So here is a roof chart. Each column we have our pitch, so everything here is within 12. Looking down here, when you measure 12 inches over, which is 1 foot, that is what this 12 is here. And then your pitch is your first number here. So we have 2, 12, 4, 6, 8. As the first number is getting bigger, it's getting steeper. As it's getting steeper, the angle is getting bigger. The slope percentage is getting bigger. And the important thing is the pitch multiplier, which is here. So in my opinion, these two columns here is not necessary for a DIYer. You're probably going to rip off and replace what's existing. Pitch multiplier is crucial that you need to know so you don't short yourself material. And then hip and valley multiplier. If you have a hip, then you're going to need this. I don't have one on this job here. So this is a gable roof, which is literally 2 pitched rectangles. A hip is where you're going to have 2 pieces or 2 facets that come out like this, and then you need to measure going down how far it is. But because this roof doesn't have it, we're going to ignore this, but your pitch is going to be how much hip and ridge you're going to need. So this multiplier, remember, everything that you're buying is for shingles, it's going to be square footage. For starter and hip and ridge, it's going to be linear feet, how far you're going straight. So if this was a hip where we have 2 facets at a 2012, we need 2.18 or 2.2 more than when we measure a linear feet. So if you have 100 linear feet, you'd be doing 220 feet for your hip and ridge. But for this job, because there is no hip, there is a ridge, which is going to be a straight line. This we're just going to ignore to keep it simple. So for this garage, it's a 612. The 612 pitch multiplier is 1.118. Just call it 1.12. Now, you want to have an overage for material for mistakes and just anything else. It's good to have a little bit of extra material. So in my opinion, if the multiplier is 1.12, I would just call it 1.2. And then you should be fine for anything that happens, for scrap or mistakes or anything else. In general, if I'm going to estimate a job that's not roofing, I'm going to give myself an extra 10%. So if I need 100 linear feet of pipe, I will calculate 110 in case there's mistakes or anything else. But the key things here that you need to keep in mind is, if you're going to measure out a rectangle, just say it's 10 by 10, you don't need 100 square feet of material. You have to figure out what your pitch is here. Guys, check out the card, because I have talked about the easiest way for anybody to calculate pitch. But because I have a 612 and the pitch multiplier is 1.12, just for simplicity, I'm going to call it 1.2, so I need an extra 20% material. So if I have a 10 by 10, instead of 100 square feet, get 120 and then times that by 2. Depending on, I think, the brand of shingles, these IKO is, every bundle is 33.3 square feet. So a square, which is 100 square feet, that's what they call a square in roofing, will be 3 bundles. As long as you don't open the bundle, you can always just return it. But this is going to be critical, this information here. You need to know your roof pitch, and then you need to know your pitch multiplier, and that is how you're going to estimate your material. For your hip and valley, your ridge, for your hip and ridge, you're going to calculate the length of your run here, and then you're going to multiply the same thing for the pitch, and then you're going to get this here. But because I don't have to do this without getting too complicated, we're going to ignore this column here and then these 2 columns here. For a gable roof, all you need to know is your pitch and then your multiplier. And like I said, just to keep this simple, this is your rise, this is your run, and then your rise is here, and then your run will be here. As far as I know, it's always 12 inches. So make sure that you calculate your material correctly so you don't have to run to the store. All right, so this is what the material looks like outside of the bundle. So this is starter strip. It comes in 2 pieces, so there'll be another piece up here, and then you snap them together. This is going to be your bottom for your eaves, and then your rakes along the side. Now for this starter here and then this shingle are, I think, within an inch or a half inch. Always make sure that you know what the difference in lengths between your shingle and your starter is. When you do your starter, you're not going to have a full length starter and then your first row being a full shingle, because you don't want your keyways lining up one on top of the other. You want your starter to be somewhere like in the middle, have your next starter, and then your shingle will cover it all together. We'll get into this later on. This is our shingle. So this is an architectural shingle. It has its pattern, whatever. You can get sawtooth, dragon tooth, all sorts of crazy things. So for our shingle, the bottom here this is the reveal. This is the headlap portion, and then the common bond is down the middle, which is going to connect the 2 parts together. And for this Ioko, this has a nailing line. So you're going to put all your nails right here. If you nail too low into the reveal, the nail is called a shiner, and it will leak because it'll be exposed. This is our starter, this is our shingle, and this here is hip and ridge. So once again, it has the tar line, and this will be for either, this garage doesn't have a hip, but it does have a ridge. The ridge is the very top, but you will use this shingle here for your hip and ridge. Once again, we will get into this. when we're on site. All right, we'll take a closer look at our shingle. So our shingle is here. Again, this is the headlap. The common bond is where the headlap and then the reveal bottom portion are connected together. For the common bond, you're going to have, in this case, there's a line, but this is where you're going to nail, and then you have your reveal at the bottom. As far as I know, all shingles are designed the same way. Alright, so for our edge metal and underlay. Underlay is just a paper or a synthetic paper that will go across. So when it comes to edge metal, you have two types. You have drip edge, which is this here. The easy way to know if it's drip edge, it has a kick out. I guess it looks like a T on the side. And then you have apron. Apron will be flat. And apron is going to be at the bottom. So your eave is where your gutter is going to be, and then your rake is the side. So when it comes to drip edge and apron, if you put it on backwards, like you put your apron on the side and then your drip edge on the bottom, it doesn't really matter. I've heard guys do apron everywhere. I've heard guys do drip edge everywhere. Your stair step pattern and your nail placement will make and break your job, but your edge metal will not, so don't get all hung up on it. But with our apron, put your apron down, and then every foot or so, you can nail it down. Now, this is a pretty mangled up piece, but your apron will be at the bottom for your eaves, and then your drip edge. So remember, you're always doing the bottom first and working your way up. So for our apron, we have our apron on. This is our drip edge. Drip edge will go over, and then you can put one nail here, and then every foot put a nail. So for overlap, I would say minimum do 2 inches. You can do up to 6. We will talk about this at the job site itself, but remember that you want to put your apron down first. Put your underlay over. If your underlay is under, again, this is something I don't think it really matters all that much, but put your apron down, put your underlay, and then your drip edge is going to go on top of your underlay. Guys, check out the card for the quick tip of the week. I'll go into detail on the way I would do this and how to make it look nice. But when it comes to your edge metal, it's not, in my opinion, it's not totally crucial, but your nail placement and your stair step will be. All right, to create the stair step, what you're literally doing is you're taking your first shingle, you're cutting it down, and then the rest of the shingles down the line, minus any penetrations or the end of the roof, are going to be a full size shingle. So when you're cutting your shingles, you have one of two options. This is a hook blade. You see the hook blade? And then this is a straight blade, which is just a typical knife. This straight blade works really well on a hot day. If you flip your shingle over, then the straight blade on a hot day will cut through the shingle like it's absolutely nothing. The hook blade here is meant to cut through the top of the shingle where you have your granules. Now, the manufacturer says to cut your shingle at 10-inch intervals. So 10 and then 20, etc. This is a 41-inch shingle, so I'm going to do 8 1/4, and then I'll have all my pieces that are going to be the same, and then you have no waste left over. Of course, we want to minimize the amount of waste that we're going to have, because that's money out of our pocket. So I'm going to cut my shingle at 8 1/4. Now, most people will just eye this out and do it straight, but here I have a straight blade. I'll do it just for the demo, but even for me personally, I would just eye this out and then do it straight as I can. All right, with our hook blade, so when you're cutting your shingles, try to hit one of the singular parts, not a double part. I'll just make it easier for you. So here we have our one piece, we have another piece, and then take another shingle, and what you're going to do is you're just going to cut your next step, stair step, and then using 2 shingles, you're going to have multiple rows ready to go. All right, for this shingle here, I'm going to use a straight blade on the back side. I'll make my mark at 16.5. It'll be a rinse and repeat for the speed square. The first shingle I cut was at 8.25. This one here I'm cutting at 16.5. Alright, so this is going to be your stair step pattern. Your first shingle will go on. Make sure that you leave your overhang about 1/4 of an inch. I would say your starter strip should be about 1/4 of an inch, so this will be 1/4 past that. So we have our first full length. You're going to nail it down. The next one will go down, so this edge will be on this edge here. And this is the stair step pattern. So the next shingle will butt up to here. You'll have your nail here. The next one will go over, nail here, and then you're going to have a length going across. So once you have your stair step pattern ready to go, this is now where you can just start to fly away. Make sure that your shingles are lined up correctly. You may have to move them up and down. It depends on the framing, but using 2 shingles, we now have 5 courses ready to go. All right, guys, to finish the prefab portion of the video, I came up with a jig idea because I'm gonna have somebody working with me that has never done a roof before, so I want to keep this as simple as possible. So here is my jig. Each line represents where the nails are going to go. So in this example here, we're going from left to right. If you're to go the opposite way, you're just going to turn the jig over. But the idea is that the T side of the jig is going to be on the open stair step side. Again, this is just to keep things simple. If you're more advanced, then you can go about this however it's going to work for you. But with our jig, each line is for a nail. So we'll have a nail 1 inch off the end, 2 here, 2 here, a nail 1 inch off the end. Now it doesn't matter which course you're on, you're always going to have a nail 1 inch off the end, a nail 1 inch off the end. Just keep that one thing in mind. For our next course, we'll move our jig up. Make sure that it's tight, it's butt up tight to the bottom of the shingle. It's tight in the corner. And then nail, 2 nails here. This is the only time that one thing is going to change. You have your 2 nails shown here, but you still need 1 inch, 1 nail 1 inch off the end. So if you want to put one here and put one here, or if you even want to put in 3, 1, 2, and then 1 off the end, you can do that as well. All right, we're on to our next course. Nail, 2 nails here, and it doesn't show anything here, but you're going to put 1 nail 1 inch off the end. We move our next course up. Nail, 2 here, or you can just move the 1 so it's 1 inch off the end and then you're very top. Nail, and then 1 here, and I will personally put 1 there and then off you go. But this jig is a quick and simple way to have somebody without experience, or if you're unsure yourself, a way to keep yourself going without any guessing. The absolute worst thing to have on a roof is wrong nail placement. If you have a nail in a keyway, you won't notice a leak right away. But what's going to happen is, depending on the pitch of your roof, steeper the roof, the less it's going to happen, but you're going to have a triangle type of shape. Water isn't just going to flow down, it's going to flow outward a little bit. So if you have a nail very close, eventually that water is going to get into your nail. But guys, this is a quick and simple way to keep yourself organized without getting too complicated with this. But guys, that covers the prefab portion. So the next part will be on site.